Hiya, four. We reached the penultimate chapter, the one before the end of the Outlaw Varjak Paw. Chapter 30. Let's get going. Chapter 30. Varjak climbed the spiral steps, heart thumping in his throat. His eyes adjusted to the darkness as he went up. The stairs were narrow, dusty, and very old. There were strange carvings on the walls. They looked half familiar, but they were crumbling, covered in cobwebs, and he couldn't see them clearly. It was a long way up. It felt like climbing a mountain. With each step, he expected Sally Bones to come at him. She was waiting in a chamber at the top of the tower. She was standing in front of a wide arched window, with a great bell hung. It opened onto a narrow ledge. He could see the night sky outside. He could hear the snowstorm raging, the wind howling like the end of the world. But in the tower, it was still as death and dry as dust. Away to one side, by the bell rope, was Holly. Sally Bones was looking at her. She was staring at Varjak with her ice blue eye. He met her gaze. It was like looking into absolute darkness, in that Mesopotamian temple chamber before the sun came through. He stepped forwards, shimmering in slow time, let the power crackling off his claws. "It's over," he said. "Let Holly go." Sally Bones shook her head. "You cannot beat me," she said. "You never could. You never will." "It's different now," said Varjak. "I know things now that I never dreamed of." She smiled. "My old enemy. Come, then. Do it, if you can." Varjak breathed in, 2, 3, 4. The energy surged inside him, but the thin white cat was also in slow time. Her whole body shimmered with a terrible power. He started to circle her. There, at the top of the spiral stairs in the distance, with the open arch behind them, they circled each other, both looking for a weakness. Sally Bones reached out to brush Varjak's whiskers, and he lunged at the opening. "That won't work any more," he said, unleashing a moving circle at her. His claws lashed out, left, right, slashing, slash, slash. Sally Bones staggered back. A few strands of white fur fluttered to the ground. Their tips were red with blood. She steadied herself and licked her lips, showing her sharp, pointed teeth. "Good," she said. "Now do what you will. Give me everything." He looked into her ice blue eye. He saw the same power that burned in him, burning like a dark star in her. It summoned up something from his depths, an absolute denial. It rose up out of him and rushed towards her. He came at her with all his power, his skills, all the anger and pain and sadness in his heart. He hit her with everything, for Holly, for his friends, for the free cats in the harbour. Every hit drew blood. He went for her face, her throat, her ribs, burying her in blows, ripping, smashing, slashing her apart. He never fought so fiercely. He had to win. So much depended on it. She had to go down. But Sally Bones soaked it all up. She seemed to rejoice in it, as if it only made her stronger. She took everything he threw at her. And now she came back at him, a whirlwind of white. He parried to his left, parried to his right, but she came through the middle and kept on coming, a blur of whiteness in the dark. He could not keep up. Smash! Sally Bones broke through Varjak's circle. His defences were breached. He reeled back off balance. She drove him back and back and back. She forced him out, through the arch, onto the narrow ledge outside the tower. Howling wind lashed his spine, froze his blood. He looked down. Through the snow, he could see the graveyard and the city lights spread out far below. It was so high, much higher than he'd been that night that Holly fell. Varjak's head swam. White snow whipped into his face. The wind was howling like the end of the world. Slash! A long white claw seared through his side. He felt it, like a knife opening him up. He looked down and saw a few strands of silver blue fur fluttering away. Their ends were wet with blood. He looked up Sally Bones, and she hit him. Once, twice, right between the eyes. Everything came apart. Everything broke down. Varjak spilled out onto the ledge like liquid. He felt emptied, like a black hole, a star imploding. No power left. "Can't believe it. She's done it. She's beaten me again." Sally Bones stood over him, on the ledge of the tower. She was looking down at him with her ice blue eye. She was the better fighter. She knew it, and so did he. "Sometimes you cannot beat your enemy." Poor Jalal. He couldn't do it. Neither can I. Feel cold now. Everything's slipping away. It's the end of the world. It's over. Varjak shut his eyes and waited. Clang, clang, clang. A vast ringing noise filled his head. At first he thought it was Sally Bones hitting again, but he could feel nothing. No pain, nothing. And a great tide of sound was rising, each note louder than the last, chiming, pealing, blasting into the night. He opened his eyes. Sally Bones was standing above him. There was pain on her face. She was flinching at the noise, her ears pinned back as each clang filled the sky around them, resounding again and again, even bigger than the sky. It hurt Varjak's ears too. It was like burning into the core of his brain, but it was a glorious sound. Clang, clang, clang. Sally Bones turned away from Varjak, scowling with fury. She stalked back through the open arch, and in the tower, it was Holly. She was ringing the massive bell. She was swinging on the bell rope, using all her strength to make it peal out into the night. With that glorious deafening noise, she distracted Sally Bones just long enough for Varjak to catch his breath. "Get back in here, Varjak, Paw!" yelled Holly. "Get back off that ledge and fight!" He grinned in spite of everything. Holly. She made something shine in him, like fine whiskers of starlight, or a chain of coloured lights, brilliant in the winter night. Holly still believed in him, even now. Far below in the graveyard, his friends were looking up. Every single one of them believed in him. I cannot let them down, he thought. They need me. They're my pack, my gang. I will not let them down. But what can I do against Sally Bones? The only way is to face your enemy. Face them and see them truly, without fear, without hate. Varjak heaved himself up onto his paws. His body was a wreck, a broken, bloody pulp of pain, like a train had run him over, crushed him flat into the track. His side was bleeding, his back was aching, his paws felt like they'd break if he fought any more. But he went back through the arch and faced Sally Bones again. The bell had stopped ringing. Its sound was still reverberating, resonating, but it was dying away. Sally Bones had chased Holly down from the bell rope and was shaping up to slash her to death. "You leave Holly alone," growled Varjak. Sally Bones turned and saw him, laughed in his face. "Varjak, Paw! Back for more? What a courageous little cat you are. You fought well. I am almost sorry it must end, but end it must." She came up close to him, so close he could see the bones jutting out of her. You could almost smell the darkness. But he didn't back off. He didn't breathe in 2, 3, 4 or make a moving circle. He stood his ground, still and silent, and looked into her ice-blue eye without fear, without hate. And what he saw was Sally Bones. Everything she was, everything she used to be, everything she would be. He saw it all, and he saw it truly. This cat who lived so long in the darkness. He saw the darkness, the despair. "Yes," she murmured, "give in to the darkness." But Varjak was not afraid any more, and now he remembered what he'd done. The last time in the harbour yard, he thought of Mesopotamia, the mountain, the bright and silent sunlight. Sunlight? Sally Bones was never seen in sunlight. Did it dazzle her? Was that why she pulled away from him? Was she powerful only in the darkness? One ray of light can change everything. It was the darkest hour of the night, the hour before dawn. If he could hold on, he could somehow hold on till sunrise, then maybe, just maybe, he'd have a chance. So as Sally Bones came towards him, Varjak told himself what to do. Hold on till sunrise. Just hold on. Hold on and don't give up whatever happens. He breathed in 2, 3, 4, prepared to meet her again. He stood there, shimmering with a power that came from deep within, from everything good and bright inside him. She threw everything she had at him, all the anger and pain and sadness in her heart, all the darkness and despair in the world, blow after blow raining down on Varjak's head. It was all he could do to keep his circle strong against the onslaught, to hold on, just hold on, for dawn. He lost track of time as they fought. Could have been hours, could have been days or years, 100 years, locked in battle with his enemy. Just hold on till sunrise. She was strong, Sally Bones. She was so very strong. In the darkness of her heart was powerful. And Varjak was tired now, so tired. Slowly but surely, she pushed him back and back and back onto the ledge, that fearfully high tower. He could hear Holly ringing the bell again, but it did no good this time, because Sally Bones was pushing him back, and he knew she would not stop until he'd fallen to his death. But still he held on. How much longer till dawn? He'd lost all sense of time and space. Where were they? It seemed like the world was flickering, blurring at the edges, its surface glowing thin. It seemed as if he could see through the world, through time and space, to something older, deeper, truer. It was almost like he could smell the sharp, sweet, wild mint, and see the mountain. No, he could see it. There it was, before his eyes, a mountain top at sunrise. He was on top of the mountain, on the snow-capped ledge, and there was Sally Bones, in this secret place with him, just as he'd seen her vision in the pool. The sun of Mesopotamia was rising higher in the sky. The sunlight beat down on Sally Bones, the bright and silent sunlight. It reflected off her snow-white fur. It grew brighter and brighter, more and more brilliant, and Sally Bones stepped back from Varjak, blinking in the light. She looked dazzled. She looked dazed. She closed her eye and cried out, "No! No! No!" And her cry must have snapped him back to his senses, because the world grew solid again, stopped flickering, and they were back on the ledge on the tower, high above the graveyard. The city was spread out below. But even here in the city, the sun was rising in the sky. It was dawn, a beautiful dawn. Sally Bones was clutching her head in the daylight. Her ice blue eye was closed. Varjak had made it. He'd held on till sunrise, and now he had a chance. In darkness he knew he'd never beat her, but in daylight, maybe he was stronger than he knew. He came at her with the last drop of strength left in him. He came at her, and she could not stop him. He drove her back to the edge until there was nowhere left for her to go. She looked at him one last time with a strange expression in her ice blue eye, and then she lost her balance, lost control, and Sally Bones, the thin white cat, she fell and fell and fell away from view. He looked down from the ledge. He was so tired after the endless night. It seemed to him that the world flickered one last time. He thought he could see her tumbling from a mountain peak, down to a sunless sea. He never saw her hit the ground, but he saw her gang, his friends, staring at something in the snow, staring and rubbing their eyes. It was hard to be certain from this height, but it looked like the body of a thin white cat, fallen from the tower and broken on the ground below. White against white. He couldn't be sure, but buried in the white, something that might have been the chip of bluest ice, melting in the snow. Wow. Is it over? Well, we'll have to find out in the last chapter tomorrow, chapter 31, and then we have reached the end of the Outlaw Varjak Pool. Thanks for listening, Year 4. Bye!